Today I get to talk about a very special game. A game that's so out of left field, but does everything so well. Catherine. Released 11 years ago in North America, Catherine comes from the masterminds at Atlus and tells the story of Vincent, haunted by nightmares while having to choose between his longtime girlfriend, Catherine with a K, or a new, very forthright girl, Catherine with a C. The story is truly unique and is incredibly good with all of its characters pulling their own weight. A visual style, headlined by the cutscenes, that looks terrific still to this day, and then the puzzle-solving gameplay that you wouldn't think works, but it does very, very well. I had a long road to playing this game myself, but I'm very glad that I did. For me, it all started watching the beginning of the game on YouTube. I believe I watched a Japanese version of the game being played by an Englishman who would translate on the fly what the game was saying. I don't remember his name, but God bless him, because that's how I first became confident that I would like this game. I took a chance on it while it was on sale, and I immediately loved it. It doesn't take too long to play through the game, and I honestly love that. I love Persona, but not every game, or even Atlus game, needs to be 90 hours long. I had a blast making my way through this game, ultimately deciding on Catherine with a K, going full on with the good ending and loving every minute of it. I eventually came back to this game about a year or so ago, almost a decade after originally playing it, and everything still holds up. The gameplay is timeless, there's plenty of wiggle room with it, playing it on easier or harder difficulties. The story is ageless, unique, weird, and it still works, and the visuals have a timeless feel as well. This has always been and will always be one of my favorite games of all time due to its weird nature, but also just being all around an overlooked gem. Let's start with the story. To me, this is one of the most unique yet relatable stories you could ever think up. You can imagine a struggle in someone's mind when their current relationship feels like it's not going anywhere or getting too boring. Vince and Catherine have been separated without actually doing it, and then a new, younger model, literally down to the name, enters the picture and tries to woo you away. Now throw in the twist where people are dying from nightmares overnight, almost like a Nightmare on Elm Street thing. It's an incredible premise and one with a lot of heart. These characters are awesome, from Vincent to both of the Catherines to the supporting friend cast that you see every night at the bar. The twists and turns of the story are also incredible, especially the second half and what becomes of the two Catherines, also depending on your choices. I give them a lot of credit for taking on a premise like this. It's not too crazy, but then they add on a supernatural vibe, as well as the element that asks you as the player how you value people. At the end of all the levels, you get to make several decisions, and it asks you how you value people, relationships, and then transfers that onto Vincent. It does its best to make you feel like you're in Vincent's unfortunate shoes in a very odd situation, trying to wiggle your way out of it, and it does an incredible job at that. The gameplay always caught me off guard when it came to this game. It could be off-putting to some, but it captures a panicked and rushed vibe extremely well. That's the main gist that I get from it. Get to the top of the level. That's the entire goal. And the game even manages to weave underlying stories into the gameplay, seeing people from the real world that you'll meet on multiple nights, or seeing people that will die when you're playing that you'll see on the news the next day. These are background moments as you're playing, but they really stick out and are a nice touch. As for the second-to-second gameplay, it's intense and it's a brain workout. Having to figure out what to pull, push, and jump on can be extremely stressful when you're up against a timer. The gameplay itself is actually quite simple, but it can get harder if you raise the difficulty, and it naturally gets harder throughout the game when you're dealing with obstacles, tighter time limits, and bosses. The biggest thing with the gameplay is just jumping in. It's a steep contrast to the base game outside of the nightmares, but it works really well when all of it's packaged together. These are two incredible characters that I just wanted to take a second to talk about. I love everything about them. As I said earlier, they fill general stereotypes that the game is after, but they do it well. Catherine with a K is, hardened to work, having been with Vincent for a long time, and it's just waiting for that next phase in their lives that never seems to come. And then it does come, but it comes around the same time that Catherine with a C, which is kind of purposeful, by the way, enters the picture and does her best to truly mess everything up. This leads to some of the best cutscenes in any game, I think, which focuses on emotion and tension as the game ramps up. The decision where to align also muddies the waters with these characters who you're choosing throughout the game. They're so well done, from their visual look to their narrative purpose. They deserve a lot of credit when it comes to not only female characters, but any characters in a game. Catherine really is one of my favorite games of all time, a game that I truly think doesn't get enough attention or credit for being as good as it is. This was back in 2011 when Atlus hadn't even published Persona 4 Golden yet. Obviously, they did have hits, and Persona always was a good game, but they hadn't reached the peak that they're at right about now. Catherine flew under the radar back then and didn't sell incredibly well, but for those that paid attention to it, gave the game a try, they were rewarded. It's one of those games you hear from time to time as underrated or overlooked, and that's exactly what it is. It's a gameplay system that doesn't seem like it'll actually work, and yet it does. It's a visual style that I've personally always been a fan of and continues to do well nowadays. A story that's one of the best out there, as well as the trio of characters that gives this game their all. If you haven't yet, please check this game out. It always seems to be on sale, or if it's not on sale, it costs extremely, extremely little to own. And guys, that's it for me. I want to thank you all so much for watching these videos. I put a lot of time into these. I really enjoy making these videos, so I can definitely do more of them as time goes on. I have other games kind of in the works, but always let me know in the comments what game you want me to, go back into and look at, all that stuff. Let me know in the comments. Make sure you guys are subscribed, bell icon turned on. If you want to support the channel or just follow me anywhere else, all my social media links, as well as our Patreon and YouTube memberships, are in the description below. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all on the next one.